Jean-Baptiste Django Reinhardt was a French guitarist and composer of Romani heritage. Reinhardt is often regarded as one of the greatest guitar players of all time and was the first important European jazz musician who made major contributions to the development of the genre. After his third and fourth fingers were paralyzed when he suffered burns in a fire, Reinhardt used only the index and middle fingers of his left hand on his solos and invented an entirely new style of jazz guitar technique that has since become a living musical tradition within French Gypsy culture. With violinist star copyright Stéphane Grappelli, he co-founded the Quintette du Hot Club de France, described by critic Thom Jurek as one of the most original bands in the history of recorded jazz. Reinhardt's most popular compositions have become jazz standards, including Minor Swing, Daphne, Belleville, Djangology, Swing 42, and Nuages. Biography. Early life. Django Reinhardt was born January 23, 1910 in Nuages, Ponticelles, Belgium, into a family of Manouche Romani descent. His father's name was Jean-Eugène Weiss, but he used the alias Jean-Baptiste Reinhardt on the birth certificate to hide from French military conscription. His mother, Laurence Reinhardt, was a dancer. The birth certificate mentions, a Jean Reinhardt, son of Jean-Baptiste Reinhardt, artist, and Laurence Reinhardt, housewife, domiciled in Paris. Reinhardt's nickname Django, in the Romani language, means I awake. Reinhardt spent most of his youth in Romani encampments close to Paris, playing banjo, guitar and violin from an early age. His family made cane furniture for a living, but included several keen amateur musicians. Reinhardt was attracted to music at an early age, playing the violin at first. At the age of 12, he received a banjo guitar as a gift. He quickly learned to play, mimicking the fingerings of musicians he watched. His first known recordings, made in 1928, were of him playing the banjo. During this period he was influenced by two older gypsy musicians, banjoist Gusty Marlar and guitarist Jean Paulette Castro. By age 13, Reinhardt was able to make a living playing music. As a result, he received little formal education and acquired the rudiments of literacy only in adult life. The injury, at age 18 in Saint-Ouen, Saint-Denis, Reinhardt was injured in a fire which ravaged the caravan he shared with Florine Bellemare, his first wife. They were very poor, and to supplement their income Bella made imitation flowers out of celluloid and paper. Consequently, their home was rich in highly flammable material. Returning from a performance late one night, Reinhardt apparently knocked over a candle on his way to bed. While his family and neighbors were quick to pull him to safety, he received first and second-degree burns over half his body. His right leg was paralyzed and the fourth and fifth fingers of his left hand were badly burned. Doctors believed that he would never play guitar again and intended to amputate one of his legs. Reinhardt refused to have the surgery and left the hospital after a short time. He was able to walk within a year with the aid of a cane. His brother Joseph Reinhardt, an accomplished guitarist himself, bought Django a new guitar. With rehabilitation and practice he relearned his craft in a completely new way, even as his fourth and fifth fingers remained partially paralyzed. He played all of his guitar solos with only two fingers, and used the two injured digits only for chord work. In 1929, Reinhardt's estranged wife Florine gave birth to a son named Henri Lucien Reinhardt. Discovery of jazz. The years between 1929 and 1933 were formative for Reinhardt. One development was his abandonment of the banjo guitar in favor of the guitar. He also first heard American jazz during this period, when a man called Émile Savitry played him a number of records from his collection. He was particularly impressed with Louis Armstrong, whom he called my brother. Shortly afterwards he made the acquaintance of a young violinist with very similar musical interests, a Eurostar copyright Stéphane Grappelli. In the absence of paid work in their radical new music, the two would jam together, along with a loose circle of other musicians. Finally, Reinhardt would acquire his first Selmer guitar in the mid-1930s. The volume and expressiveness of the instrument were to become an integral part of his style. Formation of the Quintette. In 1934, Hot Club de France secretary Pierre Noury invited Reinhardt and Parisian violinist star copyright Stéphane Grappelli to form the Quintette du Hot Club de France with Reinhardt's brother Joseph and Roger Chaput on guitar, and Louis Vola on bass. Occasionally Chaput was replaced by Reinhardt's best friend and fellow gypsy Pierre Bayra-Ferret. Vocalist Freddie Taylor participated in a few songs, such as Georgia on My Mind, and Nagasaki. Jean Sablon was the first singer to record with Django, the pair recording more than 30 songs from 1933. They also used their guitars for percussive sounds, as they had no true percussion section. The Quintette du Hot Club de France was one of the few well-known jazz ensembles composed only of stringed instruments. In Paris on March 14, 1933, Reinhardt recorded 2 takes each of Parce que je vous aime, and C. James Suzy, vocal numbers with lots of guitar fills and guitar support, using 3 guitarists along with an accordion lead, violin, and bass. In August of the following year recordings were also made with more than 1 guitar, including the first recording by the quintet. In both years, it should be noted, the great majority of their recordings featured a wide variety of horns, often in multiples, piano, and other instruments. Nonetheless, the all-string format is the one most often adopted by emulators of the hot club sound. Reinhardt also played and recorded with many American jazz musicians such as Adelaide Hall, Coleman Hawkins, Benny Carter, Rex Stewart, and participated in a jam session and radio performance with Louis Armstrong. Later in his career he played with Dizzy Gillespie in France. Reinhardt and the Hot Club of France used the Selmer McAfee, the first commercially available guitars with a cutaway and later with an aluminium-reinforced neck. In 1937, American jazz singer Adelaide Hall opened a nightclub in Montmartre with her husband Bert Hicks, naming it La Grosse Pomme. She entertained there nightly and hired the Quintette du Hot Club de France as one of the house bands at the club. Also in the neighborhood was the artistic Salon 26, at which Reinhardt and Grappelli performed regularly as they further developed their unique musical style. World War II. When World War II broke out, the original quintet was on tour in the United Kingdom. Reinhardt returned to Paris at once, leaving his wife behind. Grappelli remained in the United Kingdom for the duration of the war. Reinhardt reformed the quintet, with Hubert Rostying on clarinet replacing Grappelli's violin. In 1943, Reinhardt married Sophie Negouin Ziegler in Sudbury, with whom he had a son, Babak Reinhardt, who became a respected guitarist in his own right. Reinhardt survived the war unscathed, unlike many gypsies who perished in the Paralyzed, the Nazi regime's systematic murder of several 100,000 European gypsies. He was well aware of the dangers he and his family faced, and made several unsuccessful attempts to escape occupied France. Part of the explanation of his survival is that he enjoyed the protection of surreptitiously jazz-loving Germans such as Luftwaffe officer Dietrich Schultz Paragraph HN, nicknamed Dr. Jazz. Reinhardt's problems were compounded by the fact that the Nazis also officially disapproved of jazz. Reinhardt became interested in other musical directions, attempting to write a mass for the gypsies and symphony. His modernist piece Rhythm Future was intended to be acceptably un-jazz-like. United States tour. After the war, Reinhardt rejoined Grappelli in the UK, and then went on in the autumn of 1946 to tour the United States debuting at Cleveland Music Hall as a special guest soloist with Duke Ellington and his orchestra, playing with many notable musicians and composers such as Maury Deutsch. At the end of the tour he played 2 nights at Carnegie Hall. He received a great ovation and took 6 curtain calls on the first night. Despite Reinhardt's great pride in touring with Ellington, he was not really integrated into the band, playing only a few tunes at the end of the show, backed by Ellington, with no special arrangements written for him. After the tour he secured an engagement at Cafar Copyright Society Uptown, where he played 4 solos a day, backed by the resident band. These performances drew large audiences. Reinhardt was reportedly given an untuned guitar to play which took him 5 minutes to tune. Having failed to take along a Selmer Modular Jazz, the guitar he made famous, he had to play on a haphazardly borrowed electric guitar, which failed to bring out the delicacy of his style. Django Reinhardt was among the first people in France to appreciate the music of Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, whom he sought when he arrived in New York. They were both on tour at the time, however. He had been promised some jobs in California, but these failed to materialize and he tired of waiting. He returned to France in February 1947. After the quintet, after returning to France, Reinhardt spent the remainder of his days re-immersed in gypsy life, having found it difficult to adjust to the modern world. He would sometimes show up for concerts without a guitar or amplifier, or wander off to the park or beach, and on a few occasions he refused even to get out of bed. Reinhardt was known by his band, fans, and managers to be extremely unpredictable. He would often skip sold-out concerts to simply walk to the beach, or smell the dew. During this period he did, however, continue to attend the A26 Artistic Salon in Montmartre, improvising with his devoted collaborator, star copyright Stéphane Grappelli. In Rome in 1949, Reinhardt recruited 3 Italian jazz players and recorded his final album, Djangology. He was once again united with Grappelli, and returned to his acoustic Selma McAfee. The recording was discovered and issued for the first time in the late 1950s. Final years. In 1951, he retired to Saint-Moise-sur-Seine, near Fontainebleau, where he lived until his death. He continued to play in Paris jazz clubs and began playing electric guitar, despite his initial hesitation towards the instrument. His final recordings made with his Nouvelle Quintette in the last few months of his life show him moving in a new musical direction. He had assimilated the vocabulary of bebop and fused it with his own melodic style. While walking from the Avon railway station after playing in a Paris club, he collapsed outside his house from a brain hemorrhage. It was a Saturday and it took a full day for a doctor to arrive, and Reinhardt was declared dead on arrival at the hospital in Fontainebleau at the age of 43. Family. Reinhardt's second son, Babak, was a guitarist in the contemporary jazz style. His first son, Lucien, was more of a traditionalist, but followed the Romani lifestyle and rarely performed in public. Reinhardt's brother Joseph had initially sworn to abandon music on hearing of Django's death, but was persuaded to start performing and recording again. Joseph's son Marcus is a gypsy violinist. There is now a third generation of direct descendants. Reinhardt's grandson, David Reinhardt, leads his own trio. His grandson by Lucien, Dallas Baumgartner, is a guitarist who follows in his father's footsteps by traveling and keeping a low public profile. Django had a cousin, ʁenäʁt Reinhardt, who was a violinist. ʁenäʁt lived in Germany, and the two never met. Many of his descendants are also involved in gypsy music, such as his grandson Lulo Reinhardt. Legacy. For about a decade after Reinhardt's death, interest in his musical style was minimal, with the 50s seeing bebop superseding swing in jazz, the rise of rock and roll, and electric instruments taking over from acoustic ones in popular music. Reinhardt's friends and sideman Pierre Ferret and his brothers continued to perform their own version of gypsy swing. There was a revival of interest in Reinhardt's music from the mid-60s, with acoustic music having become popular through the folk movement. Several of Reinhardt's near-contemporaries recorded for the first time in the 60s and 70s, for instance Paul Tchou Vidal. In 1973 star copyright Stéphane Grappelli formed a successful quintet-style band with British guitarists Diz Disley and Denny Wright. Grappelli would go on to form many other musical partnerships, including John Etheridge, Nigel Kennedy and David Grisman. He was also to acquire his own emulators, for instance Dutch violinist Tim Kleefwys. New generations began to emerge, for instance, Jimmy and Stockelo Rosenberg, Paulus Schacurrencyfer and their relatives from the Netherlands. Another musical clan is the Reinhardt brothers and cousins from Germany, distant relatives of Reinhardt's. Bulu Ferrer copyright, son of Maitlet Ferret, was a child prodigy who entered the Paris Conservatoire at the age of 13, and studied under Olivier Messiaen. He continues to perform, with his brother Elios, and can mix bebop and even classical music with gypsy swing. Byra copyright Lee Legrand and Angelo DeBar were other prodigies. Most of the above-mentioned are Roma who learned music by the Gypsy method, involving intense practice, direct imitation of older musicians and playing by ear, with little formal musical study. Since about the late 1970s, study materials of a more conventional kind such as workshops, books and videos have become available, allowing musicians worldwide to master the style. An early non-Roma Gypsy-style guitarist was Rena copyright Didi Duprat. Contemporary ones include John Jorgensen, John Larson, Josko Stefan, Andreas Berg, Frank Vignola, George Cole, Stefan Rembel and Reynold Philipsuk. Their music is sometimes jokingly referred to as Gadjo jazz, where Gadjo is the Romani term for a non-Romani. Young players such as Adrian Moynard and Gwenyol Cahu represent the rising generation. Another sign of the rising popularity of Gypsy jazz is the increasing number of festivals, such as the Samwaï-sur-Seine Festival, and the various Django Fests held in the USA. Reinhardt in popular culture. Reinhardt has been portrayed in several films, such as in the opening sequence of the 2003 animated film Les Triplets de Belleville. Reinhardt's legacy dominates in Woody Allen's 1999 Sweet and Lowdown. This spoof biopic focuses on fictional American guitarist Emmett Ray's obsession with Reinhardt, with soundtrack featuring Howard Alden. He is also portrayed by guitarist John Jorgensen in the movie Head in the Clouds. Reinhardt is the idol of the character Arvid in the movie Swing Kids, where the character's left hand is smashed by a member of the Hitler Jugend, but is inspired by Reinhardt's example to keep playing. Similarly, in real life, Black Sabbath guitarist Tony Iommi suffered an industrial accident at 17, where the tips of his right middle and ring fingers were amputated on the last day of his job at a sheet metal factory. His boss, in an effort to encourage Iommi to follow his dream of being a professional guitarist, played a Django Reinhardt record for him for inspiration. Reinhardt's music has been used in the soundtrack of many films, including in The Matrix. Rhythm Future, Daltrey Calhoun, Metroland, Chocolate, The Aviator, Alex and the Gypsy, Kate and Leopold and Gattaca. The score for Louis Moore's 1974 movie, Le Comme Lucien. The background for the Steve Martin movie LA Story. And the background for a number of Woody Allen movies, including Stardust Memories. Reinhardt's music has also been featured in the soundtracks of several video games, such as the 2002 game Mafia, The City of Lost Heaven, Mafia 2 and several times in the 2007 game BioShock. Notably, not only was Reinhardt's music used in the 1978 film King of the Gypsies, his longtime friend and violinist star copyright Stéphane Grappelli appeared in the film in a cameo performing as part of one of the Gypsy bands. In the Martin Scorsese film, Hugo, 2011, a character who appears to be, and is credited as, Reinhardt plays guitar in a combo in the station Cafar copyright. Reinhardt has been the subject of several songs, most notably Django, a gypsy-flavored piece that jazz pianist John Lewis of the Modern Jazz Quartet wrote in honor of Reinhardt. Numerous versions of the song have been recorded, including one on the 1973 Lindsey Buckingham-Stevie Nicks self-titled debut album. It also appears on Joe Bonamass's 2006 LP You and Me. Tango for Django, a track on Robbie Robertson's album How to Become Clairvoyant, is a tribute. Reinhardt was the inspiration for a Harlan Ellison short story, Django, which appears in the short story collections Saturday, and Dreams with Sharp Teeth. In 2010 the French and Belgian Google homepages displayed a logo commemorating the centenary of his birthday on January 23, 2010. The Django web framework is named after him, as is version 3.1 of the blog software WordPress. The Belgian government issued a commemorative coin in 92.5% sterling silver in 2010 coinciding with his 100th birth anniversary. It is a silver €10 coin with a color image of Django Reinhardt on the reverse side. Influence: many guitar players, and musicians, have expressed admiration for Django Reinhardt, or have cited him as a major influence. Jeff Beck has described Reinhardt as by far the most astonishing guitar player ever. And quite superhuman. Grateful Dead's Jerry Garcia and Black Sabbath's Tony Iommi, both of whom lost fingers in accidents, were particularly inspired by Reinhardt's ability to become an accomplished guitar player-musician, despite the diminished use of his own permanently injured hand following an accident. Jerry Garcia is quoted in June 1985 in Fret's magazine. "His technique is awesome. Even today, nobody has really come to the state that he was playing at. As good as players are, they have no unregistered trademark t gotten to where he is. Theory a unregistered trademark s a lot of guys that play fast and a lot of guys that play clean, and the guitar has come a long way as far as speed and clarity go, but nobody plays with the whole fullness of expression that Django has. I mean, the combination of incredible speed all the speed you could possibly want but also the thing of every note have a specific personality. You don't unregistered trademark t hear it. I really have no unregistered trademark t heard it anywhere but with Django." Songs written in Reinhardt's honor include Django, an instrumental guitar piece by renowned blues rock guitarist Joe Bonamassa. The piece was influenced by the violin introduction of Vs Moi, where Reinhardt himself played the violin. Vs Moi became the title of Bonamassa's sixth album where the track first appeared in 2006. Slightly longer live versions appear on Live From Nowhere in particular, and in DVD from May 4 concert at Royal Albert Hall. Django, composed by John Lewis, which has become a jazz standard performed by musicians such as Miles Davis. The modern jazz quartet titled one of their albums Django in honor of him. The Allman Brothers Band song Jessica was written by Dickie Betts in tribute to Reinhardt. He wanted to write a song that could be played using only two fingers. Camel's Andrew Latimer is also influenced by Django Reinhardt. Composer John Larson has composed several crossover concerts featuring Reinhardt-inspired music together with symphonic arrangements, most famous are White Night Stories, and Vitavo. Cuban composer and guitarist Leo Brouwer composed variations on a theme of Django Reinhardt for solo guitar. It is based on Nuages, by Reinhardt. In 2005, Django Reinhardt took 66th place in the election of the greatest Belgian in Flanders and 76th place in the Walloon version of the same competition Le Plus Grand Belge. Each year the village of Liberties where Django was born celebrate a festival. Discography: 1945 Paris, 1945, 1947 Ellingtonia with the Rex Stewart Band dial 215-1949 Djangology, 1951 Django Reinhardt and the Hot Club Quintette, 1951 at Club Street Germain, 1953 Django Reinhardt Aces Rhythms, 1954 The Great Artistry of Django Reinhardt, 1955 Django's Guitar, 1959 Django Reinhardt and His Rhythm, 1980 Roads to Django Reinhardt, 1991 Django Reinhardt, Parche à la Moche, The Great Blue Star Sessions. 1947-1953, 1996 Imagine, 1997 Django Reinhardt, Nuages with Coleman Hawkins, 1998 The Complete Django Reinhardt HMV Sessions, 2000 The Classic Early Recordings in Chronological Order, 2001 All-Star Sessions, 2001 Jazz in Paris, Swing 39, 2002 Djangology, 2003 Jazz in Paris, Nuages, 2003 Jazz in Paris, Nuits de Saint-Germain-des-Prés Copyright S, 2004 Le Gare Copyright Ni Vagabond, 2005 Djangology, 2008 Django on the Radio, at least 8 compilations have also been released. See also: References. External links, media related to Django Reinhardt at Wikimedia Commons.